happen, so you don't have to worry about that.
And then, do you leave everything as it is, or do you want me to talk about it?
No. This is the only thing that goes in there. Leave everything as is. You'll be good to go. Streaming. Good.
It's a really good experience.
All right.
I know. I know.
All right. We're streaming. We're good to go. If that goes low, there's a charger here. Put the charger in there too in the backpack too, please.
Okay.
All right. All right. I am going to.
Hey, can you please stop wearing the Adidas with the Jordan stuff?
I know. What's up with that?
It looks like he got dressed in the dark.
So here's the charger for that.
Cool.
Okay. You good?
Yeah.
I'm headed out. Sorry, I was a ball of nerves today, bro.
Hey,
But
do your thing, man. Handle your business.
he's been around when I've been like,
Gee, he's more calm than you.
no, he knows. Hey, how did everything go over there after?
It was easy.
Who took your place?
Adam.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That's what you said was going to take my place.
Yeah. Okay. How was Poi?
Good.
I guess Alana didn't like being
I
shunned.
didn't. I don't think she liked doing it.
No, I don't think so either. It was work. But I'm glad I told Poi. She said now she knows when you come home why you're all wired.
5-year-old. Yeah.
So.
Because it's not. I mean, it's not hard. It's just you're sitting there for long. Volume.
Okay, good evening. Welcome. This is the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting. It's 5:30 on November 10th, and I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. As ever, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as our acknowledgement of tribal land. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo Zia de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. And the acknowledgement of tribal land. We acknowledge that our Board of Education meeting is taking place on occupied indigenous land. We acknowledge the Tesuque Pueblo lands and other tribal lands on which we stand. We honor these people past, present, and future. We acknowledge the history and ongoing colonization of where we are sitting right now in New Mexico and in our country. We acknowledge our own place in the story of colonization. Thank you very much. Welcome to everyone who is with us here in the room, and welcome to anybody who is watching online. We appreciate all of you, your presence and attention. We move on to item D, approval of the agenda. Superintendent, do we need any changes?
No changes this evening, Board President Noble.
Thank you.
Madam President, move approval of the agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Vice President Bozé with the motion, Dr. Gonzalez with the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we have approved the agenda. Thank you. Moving on to Roman numeral 2, introduction of interpreter. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. Deputy Superintendent Romero, please.
Thank you. Para asistencia con la traducción en español, el señor Lucero te ayudará.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to Roman numeral 3, often the best part of the meeting, our school board showcase. And tonight we begin with Amy Beal Community School Wall of Excellence. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. Making introductions tonight is Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Carl Morano.
President Noble, Superintendent Chavez, and members of the board, I'd like to introduce to you our directing principal from Amy Beal Community School, Ms. Felicia Torres.
Thank you, Carl. Good evening, Superintendent Chavez, school board members, and Santa Fe community. I'm Felicia Torres, principal at Amy Beal Community School, and thank you for the opportunity to showcase all of the teaching and learning happening at Amy Beal. Tonight I have with me some special people. I have Miss Aviva Markowitz, our 6th grade teacher, and 6th grade students, Seth Aves, Amy Estrada, and Elena Castillo. So I'm going to invite them to come up, and they're going to do the talking this evening.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Seth Abbas. I've been at Amy Beal since kindergarten. The school has come a long way, and we now have pre-K. We also recently added a greenhouse, which allows more hands-on learning. Sometimes we give tours to the younger kids and teach them about how to take care of a garden and protect the environment. Now I'd like to take this opportunity to share our compelling purpose. Amy Beal Trailblazers step into the world as creators of their own future and co-creators of their communities. At our school, teachers and students are held to high expectations and engage in a rigorous education. As educators, we work to encourage a child's sense of wonder and natural desire to learn in a culture that celebrates students' voice and their ability to explore, design, and collaborate. In partnership with families, Amyville students engage in learning that empowers them as leaders and activists who respect and protect the environment. Our school has the skills and knowledge to transform their lives and their communities. Amyville students are the trailblazers of tomorrow. Everyone in our school is always coming up with new, fun, and innovative ideas. 2 years ago, we started our Wall of Excellence, which summarizes what each grade has been working on that year. Pieces from each grade in math and writing are shown. Now, Lena will explain some of the great work in math that our school has been working on.
Hello, my name is Elena Castillo. I'll be talking to you about our math wall and what we are learning at Amyville Community School. I've been at Amyville for 8 years, so I've seen how almost every teacher teaches their students. In our pre-K classes, they are learning about equal shares with shapes. The teachers in pre-K are great at teaching math. These teachers make it fun for the kids by sometimes using food or pictures to help them understand. They talk to their students and help them out with their math problems. Going to kindergarten, they are learning about adding. The teachers make fun worksheets for them to work on. In the first grade, they are learning about fractions. They use drawings to describe what their project is and what they are learning. In our second grade, they are also learning fractions. They made big posters to show what they are learning in their classes. In the fourth grade classes, made little worksheets about what they love most and made a math problem about what they love most. This is another way to show that math includes a little fun in the project and not to stress and up math. Going on to fifth grade, they are learning about fractions on a number line with pictures on them. They have a paper on the side with all of their work and equation fractions with problems laid out on a big poster. And finally, in sixth grade, they are learning about fractions. They did this in groups with a big poster about fractions. They had to read about a bakery and make their own signs for the bakery and drawings with fun colors. The different grades have their own things. We see the growth through the different grades and see what we did when we first came here. Amyville has been the best school for me. The Wall of Excellence made the students want to reach high expectations. And when you walk through the Wall of Excellence for a couple of years, you will see what the higher grades are doing. So if you want to see yourself get higher expectations, Amyville is showing great expectations. It helps the students to see what they are capable of in the future. And this is what our amazing Amyville students are learning at Amyville. Thank you and go Trailblazers. Now going to Amy.
Hi, I'm Miss Dorada, and I have been on Amyville since kindergarten. For my first couple of years, I had been in bilingual classes to start learning English, which gave me an opportunity to understand 2 languages. I'm going to start talking about our ELA wall. In our pre-K classes, they are doing stages of drawing and writing to convey meaning and so they see it fun. On the kindergarten wall, they are using combinations of drawing, dictating, and writing to narrate a single event to see it. Also on the first graders wall, they're writing narratives in which they recount 2 or more events. Then on the second grade wall, they write narratives in which they recount a well-elaborated event. On the third grade wall, they write narratives to develop real or imaginated experiences. The fourth graders use effective techniques to describe details. On the fifth grade wall, they write details of the story and describe details of the story. Lastly, we have the sixth grade wall. The sixth graders write analysis of relevant concepts and information using strategies such as definitions. The different grades are doing the same thing, just the teachers on the lower grades read grade appropriate things to their kids so they understand what was read. On the grade wall, I had noticed the effort that the Trailblazers put into their work. This wall has shown me the different things we do on Amyville and are capable of. Now we're back to Seth Apes.
Our school can bring great education to our students and can really help with anything you need. Our goal is to show the students great things they will achieve throughout their years at Amyville. We have this wall to show how hard we've worked and what we've accomplished. You can look at further years ahead and see what is to come and what you want to accomplish in the future. I think that Amyville is such an amazing school that is always reaching higher. Thank you for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Thank you, sixth graders. You're fabulous. Okay, our next school board showcase is El Dorado Community School Art Showcase. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. With us tonight is our art coordinator, Ms. Christina Gonzalez.
Good evening, Superintendent Chavez, Board President Noble, members of the board. It is my distinct honor to introduce Ronnie Rohr, artist, designer, and arts educator at El Dorado Community School. Ronnie boasts a distinguished career in arts education with numerous honors to her name. She is a passionate educator and advocate for student voice and choice. Ronnie, thank you for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll be advancing the slides.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for inviting me here. So we'll be going. I'm going to start right off the bat with student voice.
I don't exactly know how I did this. I don't have the directions in my mind. But if you give me the right materials, if you give me some stuff, I can probably work my way around it and I can make stuff like this. I love it, Sam.
This was brilliant Sam telling us he's got all these thoughts in his head, and that's my job to bring out his thoughts in his head. I have the distinct privilege of being at El Dorado for 17 years. My students went there, so I feel like I've been there forever. I've worked with great art teachers. Lori Getz is our newest art teacher, and I'm thrilled to have her to work with. At El Dorado, TAB is our teaching, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. TAB is our philosophy, and it's all about teaching to student independence. And we think about, what do the artists do? We answer that question every single day. The child is the artist, and the art room is the child's studio. So welcome to El Dorado. You're going to see our biggest advocates right here. Kindergarten is so sweet. In choice-based art, I know my students personally because the artwork is personal. Here, students collage their books. The books look like themselves. Animals as self just brings out their personality. We have a wonderful after-school art program, and it's all choice-based. This young man came into the art room thrilled. I have an idea, and that's what I want to do, is bring out his ideas. Graffiti, manga, graphic design, we cover it all. Observational drawing is even personal. Children are not doing cookie-cutter projects. You won't find that at El Dorado. You'll see digital drawings. They brought their pets in, and then they created artwork around their pets. We had snakes, rabbits, bunnies, everything in the art room. This was a state fair winner. He taught other students how to create and use the digital. Play-based art is huge. I serve on the board of play-based art. If I'm having fun, the students are having fun, and vice versa. Sculpture of every sort. I can't even come up I don't even try to come up with all the ideas. Their ideas are driven, and they're so very personal. Collaborated art is how we begin our school year. This brings community. Then we have a graduation project. The students do a legacy mural, positive quotes, get to know one another, and end their 8th grade with leaving a gift to the school. We have a rich visiting artist program at El Dorado, Hispanic, African American, Jewish, just artists from all over. This was one of the greatest highlights of my career, citizenship in art, and meeting Jane Goodall. I'll let some of this speak for themselves. I hope you can see how individual each piece is. Even when you're looking at a skull, look at the pieces. They are so very different. When you do Teaching for Artistic Behavior and TAB, you know who your students are. The work just expresses who they are. We've won many awards. It's very important for me to state that these ideas are my students. Nothing is driven by me except for a massive theme. And then we win all sorts of awards. I serve on the Scholastic Art Board, and there's just so many different things. And when you talk to so many art educators, you realize how special our community is. And that's why it's going to be very exciting to work with Lori. Advocacy, collaboration, ideation, that's the whole point of teaching art, how to be a good model. So in the art room, this is what I know to be true. Make it fun, be authentic, listen to everyone, reach out to your community. There's room at the table, so be inclusive, and I know my students feel that, and be kind, because it's always time to be kind. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone here for allowing me to be here. And we have a brand new principal, John Seiss, who I'm very thrilled to be working with, Roxanne Starr Trujillo, our vice principal, Christina Gonzalez, our incredible arts coordinator, and again, Lori, who we're going to have a great year. It's going to be a brand new year. But the students, they're going to shine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rohr, and thank you to all of you. There's a lot of life wisdom wrapped up in the arts education package right there. Really appreciate that. Very beautiful. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Roman numeral 4, public forum. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. With us this evening for public forum is Cody Donarski, our Public Information Officer.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. There is one person signed up for public forum comment tonight through email. Public forum includes online and/or virtual participation as needed, as well as in-person comments when the board holds in-person meetings. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. There will be no sharing of time. Self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. I will give you a 30-second warning when time is almost up. Public commentary and dialogue are only allowed during public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. Please do not discuss employee matters which may result in disciplinary action. Instead, notify the employee supervisor, the Human Resources Department, or the superintendent. The public forum comment tonight is from Robin Hickerson. Hello, my name is Robin Hickerson. I attend Mandela. Since you have decided to postpone the decision for our community, I ask that you allow maintenance to be done to the school and stop using the lame excuse to teachers with broken windows and ACs that you're getting a new school soon, so we do not want to put money into fixing the current site. I respect your decision, but I ask that necessary fixes need to be addressed. No matter how old our campus is, we use it and put our best effort into not abusing it, but things still get broken, and all I am asking is that these problems are fixed. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Janarski. Is there anyone here who didn't get a chance to sign up for public forum who would like to address the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to Roman numeral 5, the union update. And NEA President Grace Mayer did send a message saying that she would not be here tonight, but she also sent her thanks for putting forward the resolution calling for funding to decrease the percentage of insurance premiums paid by all employees to 20%, which is item D on our action items. And she said that this is another collaborative effort that demonstrates the district and union's commitment to our valuable workforce. So thank you to President Mayer for the brief comment tonight. And that concludes our union update. Moving on to Roman numeral 6, our student board member announcements and follow-up. Welcome to our student board members again. Good to see you all. Who's ready for an update? Anyone? Anyone?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So for some updates from Santa Fe High School and their many amazing clubs, the Santa Fe High School National Honor Society is volunteering at the Recycled Art Show this weekend, helping to make paper. We also volunteered at the Red Rocktober event to clean the Santa Fe River, and we're planning on doing an event to make homemade food for the homeless during Thanksgiving week. Last week, the Santa Fe High School Model United Nations Club participated in the annual New Mexico Model United Nations Conference, and we received an honorable mention for Best Delegate for our Yemen delegation and the World Health Organization Committee, and Hanby Park received an honorable mention as the Best Delegate representing Brazil in the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization Committee. On sports, our girls varsity soccer team had a great season and made it to the quarterfinals, and our boys varsity team also had an excellent season and made it to the 5A Boys State Championship semifinals. Our band placed second at the New Mexico Pageant of Bands, and our NJROTC traveled to Farmington on October 22nd for the Four Corners Drill, Marksmanship, and Fitness competition and won second place overall. Thank you.
Good evening, President Noble, members of the board. Some updates from Capitol High School. Our student council, as well as other groups, hosted a fall carnival a couple of weeks ago, well, like 2 weeks ago, and it had a very great turnout. The haunted house was pretty creepy. We had 12 football players make all district, very exciting. We had 11 players make honorable mention. We had a successful Avid visit last month. We had 221 students earn honor roll, 203 students earn merit roll. Let's see, sorry, there's a lot.
Take your time.
The following students represented Capital at the Northern Central District Honor Choir last Thursday. Jocelyn, if I say these names wrong, I'm so sorry. Sabion, Ariana Sandoval, Riza Sagunot. Oh, I know I had to mess that one up. I'm so sorry. Crystal Valenzuela, Carmela Anaya. Those are the Crystal and Carmela were altos and the rest were sopranos. Jesus Orano and Aaron Hernandez were tenors. Jonathan Ramirez, Isaiah Martinez, and Donovan Natonaba were basses. And then Aaron Hernandez was chosen for the ACDA Youth All-State Mixed Choir as a bass. He will join students from around the state to rehearse and perform at the end of January. WAVE students participated with Miranda Viscoli and the New Mexican Against Gun Violence in the gun lock distribution at Capitol and Santa Fe High School football game on 10/28. They spoke to the community members about the importance of using gun locks and other methods to ensure firearms in homes. The WAVE students were Abigail Ceniceros, Lupe Ceniceros, Jesus Orano, Juan Orano, and Crystal Valenzuela. Our baseball teams, we have a full C team, JV team, and varsity team. Our baseball program continues to grow, and our baseball classes have 68 students. Our senior AVID students are mentoring freshman AVID students. They are supporting our freshmen in their transition to high school and embodying AVID. We have 2 Coffee with the Counselor events, which allow families to dialogue with counselors in an informal, non-threatening setting. And lastly, we have a community resource on November 30th. We are inviting community organizations on campus to share their programs and offerings with our families. And that is it.
Wonderful, fabulous updates. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Madam President? Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. I am.
Can we hang on for a second and see? I think Secretary Anderson had maybe a question regarding Ms. Gallegos' updates. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to know, are members of the choir here who participated? It looked like there might have been some folks, so I just wanted to give a shout out to you folks who did an amazing job. And thank you so much for coming to the board meeting. That was my only comment. I noticed some nodding heads during your update.
Yes, there's some from the choir, and there's also from the WAVE.
Thank you all for being here, and congratulations on all the things. Okay, go ahead.
All right. My name is Enrique Agner Herrera, and I will be representing Desert Sage Academy, Mandela, and Early College Opportunities. So there's quite a few things to go over, so this might drag on a bit. All right. So news from Desert Sage Academy. Desert Sage held our first Legacy and Fall Festival event on October 27th. It's an All Hallows Eve themed event. We had a virtual event hosted by Donna Walter, 4th grade remote teacher, followed by an in-person event led by Annette Harden. Let's see, correct me for, mispronunciations or the such. Let's see, our in-person electives teacher, all right, Annette Harden. Our online fall event offered equity to students and their families who could not attend in person for medical or other reasons, and a Halloween-free experience for those whose religious prohibits observance of Halloween. This event was held earlier so that the students and families who wanted could also attend the in-person event. At the on-site portion of our evening, it was nice to see all the teachers and students dressed in costumes. Let's see, being that we are in online school, Mr. G, the directing principal, encouraged the in-person event so that our remote families could have a chance to meet other families in our K-12 DSA community. Let's see. DSA is now offering a student computer club called the Hacking Club, where youngsters get to learn system administration skills and networking. These are skills that will help students transition more easily into information security called InfoSec jobs down the road. The club explores red hat teamwork, but focused on blue teamwork, or how defend systems and respond, how to defend systems and respond to attacks. The club is actively participating in the Cyber Patriot National Defense Competition right now, and will do the National Cyber League competition later in this spring. The club is sponsored by our high school math teacher, Mr. Jonathan Hack. All right, just a moment. All right, Mandela. Let's see. The Mandela spelling 7-8 spelling bee went 13 nail-biting rounds. In the end, Tommy Martine won by spelling the word serum. Ethan Watson came in second, and correct me for mispronunciation. Samo Puentes, thank you, came in third. These gentlemen will represent Mandela in the District B and hopefully move on to state. Jazzy Martinez, senior at MIMS, who plays on Santa Fe High School soccer team, made the all-state soccer team. Mandela Theater is currently at the one-act competition in Farmington. We'll keep you posted on the results. Student Council will host an art fair in December 10th from 9 to 2. Let's see, this is our third annual and gives art fair lovers the opportunity to attend at Mandela and Santa Fe High School. We've got a bicycle repair club on Friday afternoons. If you got a bike to donate or need a repair, please let us know or drop it by. All right. Now for early college opportunities, my home school. Let's see. On October 12th, PSAT was administered to junior students who signed up to take the pre-SAT assessment. On October 9th, FAFSA meeting with Educational Opportunity Center for Northern New Mexico College Trio Program Assistant. Damn, that's a mouthful. During advisory took place. All right. October 31st to November 4th was Spirit Week. Each day, students and staff participated in a dress-up days to increase school culture and spirit. Examples are Adam Sandler Day, Soccer Mom and Barbecue Dad Day, and Pajama Day to top it off. Let's see. All right. On November 4th, senior movie night. There was a senior movie night. Seniors enjoyed a movie, games, snacks, and fun. On November 2nd to November 31st, 30th, each Wednesday during advisory, each grade/cohort will meet with the counselor to discuss requirements for graduation, do credit checks and transcript reviews, complete the ONET career inventory and eco needs assessment. And this Friday, November 11th, Picture Day will take place. All right, that is it all.
Thank you very much. Did you dress up?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Excellent, excellent set of student board member updates. Anything else anybody wants to mention before we move on? I must say you all have elevated this section already, so really appreciate that. That was really great.
Yes, I think I improved over last meeting.
Progress, progress.
I just wanted to add that some students that that are part of the New Mexico Dream Team, they helped get past the Vote Yes for Kids through canvassing and a lot of hard work. So congratulations to that and them.
Congratulations to that and to them and to all of us who will benefit from this investment in New Mexico's kids. And it passed really strongly, more than 70%. It was not close, this one.
We canvassed 3,800 houses just here in Santa Fe.
Wow.
And 18,000 in all of New Mexico.
That is incredibly impressive. Yes, thank you for all that work. Okay, moving on. Moving on. Board announcements and follow-up. It's plural. Are there any board announcements and follow-up? Vice President Bozay.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, superintendent. I just wanted to say a quick thank you for the letter that came out this week from the Office of Student Wellness about respiratory illnesses. It's not a bad time to suggest to your friends, certainly if they're not feeling well, to pop a mask on. There's just so many people sick. It's a small thing. It can keep us healthy, keep our kids healthy, keep the teachers healthy, and keep us in school so we can keep learning. So thank you for that.
And I can provide a brief update on the audit committee that met today. We did have an exit conference for our 2022 audit, which is the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2022. We can't say anything about what's in it until it's been approved by the state auditor's office, at which point it will come to the full board for acceptance. But I'm sure it's fair to say we are making progress. And there's been a lot of hard work that has gone into the audit from our business services department, our superintendent, lots of folks in the district, I'm sure as well, that may fall outside of those two categories, as well as from our accounting group and the audit committee. So just a lot of appreciation for the Jaramillo Accounting Group, the audit committee, and all the folks at the district who've been working on this. Any other board announcements and follow-up? All right, moving swiftly along to superintendent announcements and follow-up. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. I'm not gonna try to top you, but I'll be lengthy as well. So on Saturday, we have the 2022 Fall Computer Science Professional Development and Planning Day. It's going to be a stipend opportunity for computer science steering committee members to collaborate, connect, and further develop their computer science plans. The goal of professional development is for all school computer science steering teams to clarify computer science core values, formulate a long-term plan, and gain information on computer science equity and sustainability opportunities. So I want to thank Justine Chavez, Dr. Neil Weaver, Dan Vallescas. I'll be there moderating the first hour of the day. I know Kathy's presenting all day, and so it'll be in collaboration with the district team and the steering committee. So more to come on that. Also, we're hoping in January to come forward and announce some partnerships around computer science. I want to thank Board Member Abeta of putting me in contact with a lot of community members that want to get involved with the public schools around computer science. So hopefully in January we have those partnerships solidified and we can announce those. Last week, Santa Fe Public Schools welcomed Congresswoman Teresa Leger Fernandez, who represents the 3rd Congressional District, to the Early Childhood Center on the 31st of October. She was deeply interested in how the center was started, the need it met, and also how it was funded and how the impact was a positive impact on the district. It was exciting to see her enthusiasm for the Early Childhood Center. We shared with the Congresswoman that the Early Childhood Center received its initial license from the ECECD, or the Early Childhood Education and Care Department, on the 14th of October, which allows us to seek reimbursement for child care costs for those who qualify, but also being licensed means that Santa Fe Public Schools can apply for grants available through ECECD, which is critical given that our goal is for long-term sustainability for the center. And then last week, it was an honor to join Acequia Madre Principal Dr. Dieter de Messenier and Victoria Montoya, 2nd grade teacher, in Washington, D.C. on November 3rd and 4th at the National Blue Ribbon Schools Award Ceremony, where the school received its National Blue Ribbon School Award. Acequia Madre was recognized on September 16th as the 2022 National Blue Ribbon School by the U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona, for improving academic performance. Principal de Messenier has led the school since July of 2021, taking the helm from Kathy Casaus, who's in the audience, at the table, who served as principal from June 2018 to 2021 and was named assistant superintendent with oversight for the school. Being in Washington, D.C. among all National Blue Ribbon School Award winners was amazing. Acequia Madre joins them in being a model for the state and for the nation. So want to congratulate Asekia and all the staff there. We want to congratulate Miss Alicia Hess. She was recognized as the Middle School Art Teacher of the Year by the New Mexico Art Education Association at its annual conference this weekend. So that's the third staff member being recognized as a Teacher of the Year. Ms. Hess is in her 13th year of teaching art and has been with Santa Fe Public Schools since 2019. Additionally, at the association's annual Members Art exhibit, 2 teachers won prizes. Ms. Hess won 2nd place, and John St. Peter at El Camino Real won 3rd place. Their work is on display at UNM's Massley Gallery of Art. Great work, Santa Fe Public School artists. We're proud of you, and thank you, Christina, who's still here. Thank you. Santa Fe Public Schools is celebrating National Native American Heritage Month in November. We currently have an enrollment of 360 Native American students attending our schools pre-K through 12th grade. The students come from 19 pueblos, 4 tribes within New Mexico, as well as from other tribes throughout the U.S. The La Cosecha Conference at the El Dorado Hotel featured powwow. We're celebrating on November 14th with Wear Your Native Jewelry, November 15th with Rock Your Mocks, and November 16th with Wear a Traditional Hairstyle, and on November 17th with Wear a Traditional Outfit. Additional information will be included in this week's bulletin for November. And as the board requested, following up on the facility and student nutrition concerns for Mandela, regarding rooms too hot or too cold, Principal Grillo said all systems are currently operating well. Whenever there are complaints of uncomfortable temperatures, the facility technicians respond immediately. The trouble seems to be with the HVAC system. Regarding mice in the facility, this was a complaint from the previous year. Mr. Grillo has seen improvement. Orkin was called to focus on the issue, and Principal Grillo helped by eliminating the practice of staff storing food in their classrooms. Regarding students not being served meals, it was not entirely clear how that occurred. However, student nutrition staff followed protocol in which all students receive a meal regardless if they can pay or not. The issue at hand may have been when students return for a second serving. In that case, a student would be required to pay for the second meal. And those were those concerns that were brought forward at public forum at our previous meeting. And then lastly, on November 14th and 15th, which is next week, Santa Fe Public Schools will welcome the committee, the LESC, the Legislative Education Study Committee, will welcome the committee at its meeting at the Roundhouse on Monday, the 14th. Joining me will be Deputy Superintendent Vanessa Romero and our CFO, Mr. Robert Martinez, and this is on Monday. And we will present a brief comments on our innovative programming to include standards-based learning, the Early Childhood Center, work-based learning, summer programming, leveraging ESSER for teacher to gain licensure, and the Be Visible Attendance Initiative. A quick story on the work-based learning, and I'll finish my updates. I was meeting with the mayor this afternoon. A student of ours was waiting for me in his office, wanted to meet me, so we started talking, and I asked, what school do you attend? I thought she was going to tell me Santa Fe or Capital. She told me Desert Sage, and I asked the student, are you remote or are you in person? She told me, I'm a senior and I'm in remote learning the entire time, full remote student. And she is an intern for the mayor's office. So she is a virtual student who has an in-person internship in the mayor's office. So the work-based learning is being valued and engaging students not only at Santa Fe and Capital, but our smaller high schools as well. And then on Tuesday, November 15th, Santa Fe Public Schools will join in a presentation on the Graduation Alliance and Dropout Recovery. Presenting on the 15th will be Jessica Hathaway, Senior Policy Analyst for the LESC, Chad Craycroft, Senior Vice President and Senior Counsel for the Graduation Alliance, myself, and also Crystal Ibarra, Chief Equity, Diversity, and Engagement Officer. So a lot of great things happening next week as well, and that does conclude my updates.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions from the board on the superintendent's announcements? Yes, Secretary Anderson.
Thank you so much. I had a question about, well, I'm excited that you brought up Native American Heritage Month. It's always great to hear people recognize that. The events sound really great. I just wonder, how are those being publicized? I hadn't heard about them through my kiddo's school, and I'm on the NASS list, and I just hadn't heard them. So it would be cool to find out, you know, so my kids can participate. And other kids, the other
Right.
357 kids
and
can.
thank you for that, Board Secretary Anderson. We'll definitely get that out through our social media platforms, through Remind, and also in our bulletin. So we'll get that out and make sure that it's well publicized.
Cool, thank you so much.
Any other questions on the superintendent's announcements? Okay. We'll move on to our presentation, overview of Policy 351, Homework Policy and Administrative Regulation. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble and members of the board. With us tonight, taking us through an overview of Student Homework Policy 351, which AR 351 accompanies, will be Deputy Superintendent Vanessa Romero. And just as we're talking about in AR's administrative regulation, it helps really embed the policy into our schools and staff, and it's approved by the superintendent. So the board policies are board approved and ARs are approved by my office. So just wanted to give some background on the difference between the two. So Deputy Superintendent Romero.
Thank you, President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. It is not a presentation, but in your packets, I believe you have a copy of the homework policy. So I'll give a brief overview of that. That was adopted in 2020. And just briefly, the board recognizes that students do need practice, but that homework should be an extension of skills or deepening understanding if it's homework. The board also recognizes the importance of after-school time for developing attributes towards school, and that includes extracurricular activities, family time. So the board recognizes that there needs to be a balance between homework and between home life and extracurricular activities. It should be purposeful and thoughtful, and it should be used as a tool for learning to deepen your understanding of a concept or a skill. And the policy also stressed the importance of independence and being age appropriate. So that's just an overview of the policy that was adopted. Recently, people in curriculum and instruction and myself and the assistant superintendents wanted to create an AR that fit the homework policy and also went with our new initiative with standards-based grading. So if you want to look at that, it stresses what the policy states in that it needs to be independent, that we need to look at quality versus quantity. But we've also included the importance of timely feedback. It doesn't make sense to give kids homework, never really look at it, and give feedback because we want to correct skills that maybe kids aren't necessarily getting. So we stress the importance of that piece of feedback is so important when we're looking at homework. But then we also looked at current research and the amount of time that should be designated for each grade level. So for instance, in elementary school, when you start first grade, you look at about 10 minutes of homework, but it should really be focused on reading and things that the kids are wanting to learn about. So if they're a first grader and they want to learn about airplanes, or they learned something at school about planes that really interested them, then that should be the work, right? Reading high interest books. And so as you move up through the grade levels, you add an additional 10 minutes, and that is based on research. So we looked at education journals and articles and surveys, and so we're just following the research. And then we also included time limits for elementary, for secondary students, but I want to stress that these are not goals. We're saying that we should not be exceeding these time limits because the research also says if you exceed these time limits, it could have an adverse effect on a child's learning and their love for school. I think the important piece is also the feedback. We want to give students opportunities to practice a skill independently. We don't want to send kids home not feeling successful in doing some of that practice work at home because we want our kids to feel successful and we want to build in that equity. We're fortunate that we do have families that are very engaged and work with their kids and read with their kids, but then we also have instances where kids go home and they don't have those supports. So this is an AR that was a little more specific, included research and looked at timeframes, not goals, but that we shouldn't be exceeding those times.
And I just want to add our next steps after tonight is really to start to educate and inform our school sites and our educators. So that's next steps. That may have been a question. What happens next? How do we know? And so we discussed this after tonight is our job to push this AR out and help them better understand the homework policy.
Questions from the board? Go ahead.
So high school students, they have about 7 classes, and it's really hard for teachers to know what other teachers are giving out for homework. And like, especially junior year, you get a lot of homework from like every single teacher. So I think that really helps because it is very stressful when you have a lot of homework due like all at this end of the week or like all in the same day. So that really, really helps.
And one way we're addressing it is we have that built-in time for collaboration for teachers to get together. And so when we meet with principals, we'll talk about like, how are you ensuring, we have content, like your English teachers meeting together or math teachers, but how are we ensuring that we're meeting across content so that we're not overwhelming students with tons of homework?
Yeah, and I think that's great because not a lot of, I don't think they communicate on their own. I think it's better when they're like forced to communicate because then you're like, you need to communicate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions from the board on this? Go ahead, Secretary Anderson.
Thank you so much. Is this, Superintendent, is this something that will go out to parents as well? So they have, I get a lot of questions about homework policy.
Well, typically, and sorry, Secretary Anderson, President Noble, members of the board, we don't publish ARs. Those are internal working documents. So it's a live document. We can always make adjustments to it. And when we're making adjustments to policies is when we have to bring them to a board meeting for change. So that's why those ARs aren't typically published because they are living, breathing documents that we can adjust when we approve it through my office. We can put together maybe a one-pager or something that we can help educate and communicate with our community, but ARs are not published.
Thank you so much. I think it would be helpful for parents to know kind of what to expect, just because I found that it differs very much based on the teacher or subject. I did have one comment, and I totally, sorry, Board President Noble, do you mind if I keep going? Okay, thank you so much, Board President Noble, Superintendent, members of the board. I totally understand that this is based on research, and I want to register that I feel like it's really hard to teach kids that taking homework is a good thing to do, just because as adults, I would hope that we all strive to, I know none of you over there ascribe to this, but the idea that like it's good to create sort of like work-home boundaries, and I love the idea of it being interest-based because that's what I want to do when I get home is, pursue things that are relevant to my interests that hopefully will enrich me as well. Particularly in high school, having up to 120 minutes per night kids are at school, they have breaks, but they're typically at a school building for 35 hours a week, or, maybe a little less, and then we give them 10 hours of homework, which is not a goal. I totally understand that hopefully it's less. But it does seem like a lot, especially when students are maybe working jobs to help their families or participating. And we know these guys down here are participating in lots of different things. So I wanted to register that as a concern.
No, we appreciate that. We actually had that discussion today, and I used my own daughter as an example, both my son and daughter on IEPs. So it takes them twice as long to complete homework, and so they need the adult to help them. So what we wanted to make clear in this AR is that it's not to exceed. We're not saying this is what you should give. We're just saying it should not exceed. So if it's 30 minutes, then and it's appropriate for that grade level and for that content area, then that's appropriate. We're just saying please do not exceed this amount.
Thank you so much.
President Noble, may I make an additional comment?
Please go ahead.
I also think it's really important that we differentiate our homework and that we're not just, busy work versus using it as a tool to enhance learning. And I think with that, we have to differentiate for our students, in their abilities. And I think that is our job to continue to support and communicate and work with our principals so that they can share that with their teachers, because it should be differentiated.
An important point, thank you. Other questions, comments on our homework policy and administrative regulation?
Board President Noble.
Go ahead, Secretary.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I'm so happy this exists, and I really appreciate the work of the team in putting this together. This is really great to see.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Deputy
you.
Superintendent. Moving on to our action items. And we'll go ahead and do the consent agenda. I would ask that we actually move up Resolution E to be our next action item after we do the consent agenda. If there are no objections from the board, as we do have folks here waiting for that, and we don't want to hurry through any of the other things. But if that's all right. Okay, seeing no objections, we'll go ahead and do the consent agenda. Are there any questions or anything board members want to consider individually on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion?
Madam President, I move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Vice President Bozé with the motion, Dr. Gonzalez with the second. Any further discussion or questions on the consent agenda? I want to note we had a pretty long meeting last week. It was like 4 hours long. And if you look at the minutes that's done by the marvelous Ruth Williams, they are incredibly detailed and accurate, as always, for an extra long meeting. So thank you, Ms. Williams. We really appreciate it. Always good to keep a nice record. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Thank you very much. We've approved the consent agenda. So now, as per my request, we will move on to action item E and then go back and do our other action items. But we'll start with Resolution 2022-2023-8, SFPS Board Student Support Against Gun Violence. And I do just want to recognize everybody that's here, our students who are involved, and we'll hear more, as well as to thank Miranda Viscoli of New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence, who's been very helpful in all of this work and is here with the team as well. So I'm guessing we start with you, Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. I'd like to introduce our Executive Director of Student Wellness, Ms. Sue O'Brien, and then you had mentioned Ms. Miranda Viscoli is here with us as well. And in addition to that, we have our WAVE coordinator, Mr. Chris Ellers, and I did practice that. And just real quickly, WAVE stands for Wellness Ambassadors to Voice and Empowerment. So when we talk about WAVE and you see these individuals here, they're part of the program. So Ms. O'Brien, please.
Thank you, Superintendent Chavez, President Noble, members of the board, student board members. I'm honored this evening to share the space with, as Superintendent Chavez said, Christopher Allers, who is our WAVE coordinator for our district in the Office of Student Wellness, and Alicia Dickinson, who's our Capitol High School WAVE sponsor, and Miranda Scully, always wonderful to see her. And we have several Capitol High School WAVE members here with us this evening. Julio Perez, Crystal Valenzuela, Jesus Arona, JC Arona, Genesis Lopez, SB Webb, Kelsey Place, and Biane, is that right? Biane, excuse me, Biane Reza. So thank you all for being here this evening. We're here this evening seeking your approval for Resolution 2022-2023 Santa Fe Public School Board Student Support Against Gun Violence. And this resolution is really to indicate full support from our board for students to participate in the Student Pledge Against Gun Violence during our Gun Violence Prevention Week, which will take place November 28th through December 2nd. The Student Pledge Against Gun Violence, it's a national program, and it encourages our youth to abstain really from gun violence. It's an opportunity to create a space for our youth to have a voice on an issue that concerns them, their safety and well-being, and to become empowered to end the cycle of gun violence. It is not intended to be an anti-gun or an anti-hunting resolution, but rather an anti-gun violence and supportive of responsible gun ownership. So with your permission, Board President Noble, if I could ask Christopher Allers, or if you'd prefer to actually read the resolution.
No, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher?
Welcome, Mr. Ellers.
Thank you all for welcoming all of us this evening. So I'll just go ahead and read the pledge. Whereas 2020 data from New Mexico Department of Health reveals that on average, we lose close to 3 children every month to firearm deaths. Whereas 2020 data from the New Mexico Department of Health shows that firearm deaths are the 3rd leading cause of death for children and teens ages 0 to 18. This is the first year that firearm deaths surpassed motor vehicle deaths. A nationwide study conducted by the American Academy of Pediatrics found that from 2019 to 2020 during the pandemic, the most recent data available, firearm deaths increased rapidly by 28% from 7,947 gun-related deaths in 2019 among children and young people ages 24 and younger to 10,197 in 2020. The most recent data confirms that firearm-related deaths are the #1 cause of death for children and adolescents in American youth, ages 1 through 19, whereas New Mexico's young people are its most valuable resource, and the Santa Fe community has a vested interest in ensuring that children grow up in an environment free from fear and violence, whereas young people deserve a voice in the issues that affect them and their futures, whereas the SFPS Office of Student Wellness works closely with wellness ambassadors to voice and empower groups at middle and high schools around gun violence prevention, whereas the Student Pledge Against Gun Violence affords the opportunity for bringing together schools, networks, and resolutions to build on existing efforts to address the issues of gun violence, Whereas SFPS will establish the student pledge against gun violence to give students the opportunity to pledge that they will never bring a gun to school, will never use a gun to settle a problem or personal dispute, and will use their influence with their friends to keep them from using guns to settle disputes. Whereas since its inception, more than 10 million students nationwide have signed the student pledge against gun violence. Now, therefore, be it resolved that 1, the SFPS mission is to ensure every student a safe, high-quality, and engaging education which values diversity, equity, and social justice, and fully maximizes district and community resources. 2, in alignment with the district's mission, the SFPS Board of Education fully supports the efforts of the Office of Student Wellness and WAVE groups at middle and high schools to bring awareness to the violence perpetrated in our society with guns, including school shootings, during the SFPS Gun Violence Prevention Week from November 28th to December 2nd, 2022. The SFPS Board of Education fully supports WAVE students promoting the Student Pledge Against Gun Violence during Gun Violence Prevention Week and during other opportunities to encourage students to sign the pledge. Each SFPS Board of Education member affirms and will sign the Student Pledge Against Gun Violence.
Thank you very much.
And with your permission, I'd like to invite the students that have come here tonight to read the pledge, if that's all right. We have
Absolutely.
them ready to read it in both English and Spanish, if that's all right.
Wonderful. Again, students, you're always the best part. Thank you for being here.
Nunca llevaré un arma de fuego a la escuela. Nunca usaré un arma de fuego para resolver conflictos. Trataré de influir a mis amigos para que ellos tampoco usen armas para resolver conflictos. Mis propias acciones y decisiones, cuando multiplicadas por las de los demás jóvenes en este país, tendrán un efecto. Juntos viviremos las promesas en este contrato. Podemos eliminar la violencia y sobrevivir un futuro pacífico.
Gracias. ¿Y su nombre, por favor? Your name, please.
I'm Crystal Valenzuela.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
And if you would start with your name, tell us. We want to hear who all of you are, please.
Hello, my name is Julio Perez.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Place.
And hello, my name is Jesus Orona. I will never bring a gun to school. I will never use a gun to settle a personal problem or dispute. I will use my influence with my friends to keep them from using guns to settle disputes. My individual choices
and
actions
will multiply by those of young people throughout the country. We make a difference together by honoring this pledge. We can reverse the violence and grow up in safety.
Thank you. Thank you to all three of you.
Thank you. Board President, we also have information to share with everyone, if time permits, on the different activities that will be happening during Gun Violence Week. I'm not sure
Sure.
if you'd like us to share that, Christopher?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. So the WAVE program will be participating in a number of different activities during the Gun Violence Prevention Week. But firstly, November 15th and November 17th, our WAVE groups will be attending a field trip that will be co-facilitated by Miranda Viscoli and some great folks from New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence to begin doing some education around this issue and prepare them to really take the lead on making these activities happen at their schools. So I want to be clear that this isn't something that me or Sue or Miranda are going to the schools to facilitate happening. It's something that each student will be making happen on their own. So to begin with, as was mentioned earlier, students from Capitol High School's WAVE group were able to go and distribute gun locks at the football game on October 28th. In addition to that, we'll be doing another gun lock distribution event at the Winter Craft Fair at Santa Fe High School on December 10th. So that's something that we will have adult representatives there for, but students will be present as well. WAVE groups will be facilitating a project called Pinwheels for Peace at their schools, which is a really visually stunning activity where we're encouraging students as they're having their peers sign the pledge, be it at lunch or before school, their peers will be able to make an actual pinwheel that spins, and it can be displayed on campus with the message of, you know, why is this issue important to them? Why is it important that we solve the issue of gun violence here in Santa Fe? In addition to that, WAVE members will be participating in a memorial canvas mosaic that's done with support from New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence, which is an art project intended to, you know, memorialize and honor young people from New Mexico that have been lost due to gun violence. So each student will have the opportunity to honor someone that was maybe their age or maybe even younger that has been lost. So those are the things that the WAVE groups are doing. In addition to that, the Office of Student Wellness will be providing a menu of suggested activities that are grade level appropriate and span across different subjects that are just opportunities for, you know, the broader school community to get involved with this Week Against Gun Violence that will be happening simultaneously with all the other activities WAVE is doing.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
I would also, if it's all right, and I don't know if there's more to present, but just want to invite any of the students up, particularly those of you who didn't do the pledge for us, if you want to share any thoughts about this pledge and your work and what you're doing, or... No obligation. Cancel anytime. But you came all the way here, and we appreciate you being here and would love to hear from you. Yeah, I did. I know I put y'all on the spot.
I think they're trying
All right, all right.
JC volunteers as tribute.
Welcome, JC. Thank you.
Hello, my name is JC. All I gotta say is WAVE is a pretty good thing to stop gun violence and provide gun locks, and I really like it. That's all I gotta say.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JC.
Appreciate that. Anybody else want to say anything?
Hello, my name is Kelsey Place, and I think that WAVE is a good thing to have in schools because it helps raise more awareness for gun violence and, you know, how to protect yourself for gun violence. That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
You're good?
Okay.
Board President Noble, I think that is the end, and we're seeking your approval for the resolution this time.
Thank you very much. And just want to say, I hope you all know the power of peer education and advocacy because it's you who matter most. And we really appreciate the work that you're doing to keep our schools violence-free. Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Vice President Bozay.
Got it right. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, superintendent. I just really wanted to say thank you to the student leaders. It's crucial. It's crucial that you see these things oftentimes before anyone else does. You hear the talk in the hallways, and having your advocacy and your support to prevent violence in our schools and in our communities is really, really important. I hate that it's necessary, but thank you for doing what you're doing, and to our district and community leaders as well. Thank you.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, President Noble, Superintendent Chavez, members of the board. I also just want to thank Miranda Viscoli for all the work that she does. Thank you.
Ms. Gallegos.
I'd just really like to thank all of my peers, because if you guys weren't giving out gun locks at the football game, most people don't really buy gun locks. They just like, oh, I have it in its case, it should be good, but they don't really realize that little kids are smart and they'll know how to open that. So I think it's really valuable that you guys are handing them out, and especially just giving them out, because most people, they're like, oh, well, I can't go get one. So they don't have an excuse when you're just like, oh, here, take it.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
Madam President,
Yes, go ahead, Secretary Anderson.
I'd like to move approval.
Marvelous.
I'll second.
Vice President Bozay with the second. Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Thank you to everybody at the district as well. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2022-23-8, our board support for the Student Pledge Against Gun Violence. And one note in our packet on the therefore be it resolved number 2, the printed version says October 24th to 28th. It was read correctly as November 28th to December 2nd. So just to note that we'll approve the November 28th to December 22nd in that resolution.
December 2nd.
Sorry, yeah, December 2nd, 2022. All right, we have a motion and a second with the correct dates. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Thank you again. We appreciate you all. We've approved the resolution and certainly support all your work in the Pledge Against Gun Violence. And thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you coming and speaking with us. Okay, back to action item B, out-of-country travel to Oaxaca, Mexico, Mandela International Magnet School. And just to say, it's been a long time since the board has had to approve any out-of-country travel. It's been a really long time. We used to do this, I feel like, quite a lot, but I'm very pleased. Okay, I thought that might be the case. Vice President Bozay says she's never approved this, and so that gives us an idea of how long it's been. It's only me who's done this before, and I'm really happy to see it again. So, Superintendent, why don't you tell us what we're doing here?
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. Deputy Superintendent Romero will take us through a summary of this out-of-country travel. As you know, as COVID started to really, prohibit not only out-of-country travel, but in-state travel within the U.S., we put a stop to a lot of travel moving outside of New Mexico and the U.S. So again, this is the first one that we've brought forward since that point. I'm sure we'll see many more as we start to move into the later part of this school year and into the following school year. So it's been a while, maybe 2.5 years since we've approved out-of-state travel. So Ms. Deputy Superintendent Romero, please.
Thank you, President Noble, members of the board. Superintendent Chavez, We bring this forward because according to board policy, we have to get permission and approval from the board for out-of-country or out-of-state travel. Mandala plans on taking 13 students to Oaxaca with 2 teachers. The principal, Randy Grillo, has taken students in the past. I think he said he started in 2016 in taking students, not him necessarily, but the school has taken out of country travel. It is being paid for by the families, so this is not at cost to the district. And I think in your packets you also have the itinerary and what the students would be doing during the time. It's a 2-week trip. One of those weeks is spring break, so students will be missing 1 week of school, but they're still responsible for completing their classwork while they're out.
And I just want to add, the students will be living with host families, which cover in-country travel, meals. It's also to help them get immersed in the Spanish language. And again, they'll be speaking the native Spanish speakers, Spanish language, trying to elevate their language literacy, right? And so it's a great experience for them. Parents are going to be providing most of the responsibility as far as cost. The reason why we're bringing it so soon is that way they can start planning airline tickets and stuff like that, so they can get it at a less expensive rate. So we're bringing it early so they can start doing the planning now.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Well, I was really excited to see this since I just got back from Oaxaca myself, and it's an incredibly beautiful city and lots to do there. And of course, I was there for Dia de los Muertos, but it still will be an incredible experience for the students. So I really support it.
And thank you for posting beautiful pictures of Oaxaca and Dia de los Muertos on social media. It's lovely. Vicariously travel through you. Any questions, further questions on this one? Not, is there a motion?
Madam President, move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Bozé with the motion, Board Member Abeto with the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the out-of-country travel to Oaxaca, Mexico for Mandela International Magnet School, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, thank you. We have approved action item B.
Great, thank you.
Moving on to action item C. This is our redistricting, and just to say, I believe we have our consultants' research and polling available to be on the phone if we need them, given that we had the extensive study session that we had a few weeks ago. We did not ask them to be here tonight, but they are available by phone if we need them. So Superintendent, are you going to frame this one?
Yes, thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. With us this evening is Deputy Superintendent Wagner and Legal Counsel Josh Granata. As you mentioned, President Noble, we had a initial board meeting when we presented with research and polling, and then we had a town hall that really gave you guys the opportunity to ask a little more in-depth questions after you were able to digest the initial presentation. And then also, we sent you the overlays so you could really see the changes between the 3 concepts. Of course, we provided you in your packets concept A, B, and C, which was thoroughly reviewed at both meetings. So, Deputy Superintendent Wagner.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, Superintendent. I'll just briefly outline the summary of the purpose of the work and the work to date so everyone knows what the action item is about tonight. As we all know, redistricting is required every 10 years in concert with the census. It's an adjustment of the school board election districts. It is not an adjustment to our school boundaries. When we did this work with research and polling, they outlined for us some important factors taken into consideration for redistricting. Equal population, so no more than 10% total population deviation between board member districts. Minority voting strength contiguity, communities of interest. Those were the 4 areas that we focused on. And so at the study session in the town hall, that we worked through this information around, all options presented to the board took into account these factors. Research and polling put together this information for us based on work they do across the state. They have a long history of helping boards with their redistricting. The presentations, as the superintendent mentioned, have been public. The information has been posted on our website. We've allowed opportunity for community feedback through social media, our newsletter, and our website since roughly late summer. Okay, so now we're at the point where the Board of Education needs to adopt and submit their new board election districts by December of 2022. Once submitted to the county clerk's office, the new boundaries will go into effect at the next election. So the next time there are board member seats up for election, the redistricted maps will go into effect. So we'll just very briefly with Mr. Donarski remind everyone of the 3 concepts and their focus areas. As Superintendent mentioned, you have the backup maps and information. But concept A was the least change plan, so it's really modeled after our current districts. It equalized the population while retaining 2 majority Hispanic voting age districts, and it does not pair incumbents. Concept B keeps neighborhoods of the city together, holding boundaries in major thoroughfares. There were 2 majority Hispanic districts in Concept B, and it does not pair incumbents. Finally, Concept C aligns school board members with schools they represent, which is also not a requirement of the work, but it's something we did as an exercise in looking at what that might look like. There's 1 majority Hispanic voting age population district in this scenario, 2 major minority districts, and it does not pair incumbents. So that's really a very high-level overview of many meetings worth of work and long presentations that have been provided to the board. Josh Granata and I can stand for questions. We can phone in our consultant if you wish, and we'll leave you to have your discussion and make your vote.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent. Questions, comments from the board? Okay, well, we'll certainly wait for Vice President Bozé before we move on this one. But I guess in summary, I will go ahead and say I believe that at our town hall, we talked a good amount about Concept B. And I think we all had both intellectual and gut feelings about that one, that what it does in terms of neighborhoods and respecting natural boundaries in our community is pretty nice. The other thing I did want to mention is I believe in our Concept B, we have the schools represented by each district. Just want to look at that. I think it was the previous meeting, not the town hall, where we had discussed the fact that representation of Desert Sage would actually go to District 2. And it looks as if, yeah, and we had talked about that and Kearney in District 5, where it is listed in Concept B. Kearney is in 5, but yeah, Desert Sage is listed in 1. So what I am teeing up is that we would ask that Desert Sage be listed under District 2.
Correct, indeed.
Yes, Mr. Agner Herrera.
Excuse me, Miss President Kate.
Is your mic on? Turn your mic on if it's not.
Yes, I think
okay,
it is.
Great.
Maybe I just need to be a little closer. May I get one of these maps? Let's see. Oh, yes. Thank you. I'm just curious to see what these districts look like. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Superintendent. Superintendent reminds me that it wasn't Kearney that was the issue. It's Chaparral. We had talked about Chaparral moving to District 5 for representation.
But what I'm looking at, sorry,
Go ahead.
Board President Noble, Superintendent, members of the board. When I'm looking at this, I actually think that Chaparral is now in District 1 physically with Concept B.
That's correct.
But I would say, in terms of like shuffling schools, I do like the fact that right now we have 2 board members representing each of the large comprehensive high schools. So I might ask that we consider in the future keeping that. Right now, for example, Dr. Gonzalez and I both represent Santa Fe High. It's right on the border of Concept B. I don't know if you can see like the Yucca, Llano, but it's just on the border there. So I think it might make sense to keep 2 representatives per comprehensive high school. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, I thought that we had talked about Chaparral going to you.
But it's in your district.
Oh.
We had, yeah, and just to say, and I think, we can discuss and decide, but, and those were the 2, and I had misremembered, but it was Desert Sage going to District 2 and Chaparral potentially going to District 5. But if I hear you now, Secretary Anderson, I think what you're saying is looking at the maps, it makes more sense to Chaparral to remain as listed, represented by District 1.
Board President Noble, that is what I'm saying, though, if Dr. Gonzalez feels as that she has a lot of schools, so if there are any that she would like for me to represent, I mean, we've talked about how we sort of represent the district as a whole, and not being voted for by those parents doesn't necessarily mean that I can't serve as a sounding board for their school. So if you feel like you have too many schools, then I'm happy to take it, but I do think with this map, it does sit in District 1. I think.
Yeah.
I'm easy, I can go either way.
Dr. Gonzalez does not feel strongly.
I like the school, I've been to it, and that it's
wonderful.
Really wonderful school, so.
And of course, the geography is a little bit complicated, and it is sort of incumbent upon us here to both represent our districts and the schools listed, and to think about the district as a whole. And that is something I think we're all pretty good at doing, that we can hold all the thoughts at once. I guess I'm inclined to agree with your initial hit, Secretary Anderson, that Chaparral does look like a District 1 school to me. And I am also inclined to suggest that we officially do, as Vice President Bozé was, I'm sorry, it was you, Secretary Anderson, were suggesting with the comprehensive high schools, that Santa Fe High School is additionally represented by District 5 explicitly, and that Capitol High School is additionally represented by District 2, because I believe that has been our understanding, correct, Vice President Bozé? So, having said that, I'm going to go ahead and just read, if you all will indulge me, the schools represented by each district as I think it should be. District 1, Acequia Madre, Wood Gormley, Atalaya, E.J. Martinez, Santa Fe High School, Early College Opportunity High School, Chaparral, and Mandela International Magnet. District 2, Amy Beal, El Dorado, Desert Sage, and Capitol High. District 3, Tesuque Elementary, Carlos Gilbert Elementary, Gonzales Community, El Camino Real, and Aspen. District 4, Ramirez Thomas, Sweeney, Ortiz, Cesar Chavez, Capitol High, and Nina Otero. And District 5, Salazar, Milagro Middle School, Nava Elementary, Kearney Elementary, Pinon Elementary, Nye Early Childhood Center, and Santa Fe High School.
Okay. Just looking at one thing. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? One question I have is on this representation question, which we do want to be clear on for our community. But this, unlike the voting maps, I believe is something that the board could adjust of its own volition at a time that is not 10 years from now. Is that your understanding?
That is our understanding.
Okay, so the maps, per the decennial census, we are adopting for good and for always the representation, just to say if we end up feeling that it's too heavy or light in other ways from what I just read, we are able to adjust that in the interim. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we adopt concept B with the representation that I just read through for districts 1 through 5.
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Abeyta. Any further discussions? Student board members, do you want to ask questions at this point? Yes, Ms. Gallegos.
So, for Capital, we would have 2 board members representing us.
You would, both District 2, which is Vice President Bozé, and District 4, which is Board Member Abeyta.
That was all. Sorry.
Yeah, good question. No, it's important to know who your specific representatives are. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting concept B and the representation of schools by district as detailed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we have redistricted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations.
Moving on to our action item D, Resolution 2022-2023-7, calling for funding to decrease percentage of insurance premiums paid by all employees to 20%. And Vice President Bozé is our official sponsor of this one, so I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, superintendent. I had a little bit written up, and then I realized it was almost a duplicate of what was named in the summary of this resolution. So I'll just go ahead and read what's here. It's a lovely resolution that I think is very important. Definitely in support of this, and appreciate NEA Santa Fe Vice President or President Grace Meir bringing this forward to us as well. In summary, several school boards in New Mexico, including the Board for Las Cruces Public Schools and Alamogordo Public Schools, have passed resolutions joining local NEAs and NEA New Mexico in prioritizing health care access to public school employees. The resolution calls upon the New Mexico legislature to implement and fully fund the 80-20 rule, where all employees of New Mexico public schools pay 20% of their insurance premiums, regardless of salary or position. If policy reforms were made and fully funded for these statutory constraints and brought to parity with the General Services Department and Albuquerque Public Schools, the state will pay a minimum of 80% health insurance premiums per paycheck to an employee's maximum payment of 20%. And the resolution. Now it's my turn to talk a lot and hopefully clearly through my mask. Whereas the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education is committed to improving the quality of education for all public school students, and whereas the SFPS Board of Education understands that public education is an investment in students' futures, And whereas the SFPS Board of Education highly values public school teachers and other school employees for the important contributions they make to the education of children, and whereas the SFPS Board of Education honors teachers and school staff as professionals deserving of salary and benefits commensurate with the important role they play in children's lives, and whereas despite teachers' important impact on children, the state of New Mexico continues to experience a persistent shortage of highly qualified teachers. And whereas the state of New Mexico has failed to attract high-quality post-secondary students as our state's future teachers, with teacher candidates dropping by 75% over the past decade. And whereas the SFPS Board of Education values meaningful policy reforms that will help to recruit and retain educators and significantly improve their quality of life, both now and in the future. One such reform is to decrease the percentage of insurance premiums paid by employees. Whereas, as evidence of its commitment to retaining a highly valued staff, the SFPS Board of Education has long absorbed the cost of health care coverage increases for its employees. Whereas, according to the Legislative Finance Committee, New Mexico has, quote, a, quote, trifurcated system of providing public employee health benefits that has led to different plan designs, premiums, and employer and employee contribution rates. Benefits are provided through 3 agencies: the General Services Department for state employees, Albuquerque Public Schools for all of its employees, and New Mexico Public School Insurance Authority, or NMCIA, for all non-APS educational employees. In the case of APS and NMCIA, health benefit rates are set by their respective boards, while ultimate discretion for GSD rates reside with the governor. And whereas while the insurance plans are similar, the premiums are dramatically different. For example, a teacher on the NMCIA plan may pay $4,200 for coverage through the Blue Cross Blue Shield network that is very similar to the Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO plan offered to state employees through GSD, but state employees pay less than half of the NMCIA rate for the coverage. Whereas Section 22-29-10 NMSA 1978, requiring all school districts covered under NMCIA, except for APS, to set a floor and ceiling for healthcare benefit contributions, was established in 1996 and has not been amended since that time. In addition, the statute produces a cliff effect, so that as the lowest paid school employees move up in pay, they face higher insurance premiums, resulting in a pay cut for some. And whereas, despite the recent increase in educator salaries in New Mexico, the escalating cost of long COVID-19 is expected to impact health insurance premiums and costs, further impacting employees' quality of life. And whereas the SFPS Board of Education understands that in order to attract high-quality teachers and leaders to public school employment, the state of New Mexico must address these disincentives by significantly raising salaries and benefits and improve the trifurcated system of healthcare benefit, which will honor staff. And now, therefore, be it resolved that as the disparity in employer and employee contribution rates is largely due to statutory constraint and agency policy, the SFPS Board of Education calls upon the New Mexico legislature to implement and fully fund the 80-20 rule, where all employees of New Mexico public schools pay 20% of their insurance premiums, regardless of salary or position. If policy reforms were made and fully funded for these statutory constraints and brought to parity with the General Services Department and Albuquerque Public Schools, the state will pay a minimum of 80% health insurance premiums per paycheck to an employee's maximum payment of 20%.
Thank you, Vice President Bozay. Did you want to add anything, Superintendent? Yeah, go ahead.
I do. Thank you, Board President Noble. Just want to make a few things clear, and thank you, Vice President Bozay. On the cover sheet, you see that there's a budget that identifies $440,000. That was in this year's budget. It was for the cost increase for healthcare benefits. This has been a practice of the school board for many years. So we just wanted to note that even though there was an increase to healthcare benefits, you guys, as the school board covered it, and that was the cost. If we shift it, and hopefully the state does make this shift, we're currently on average a 60-40 split. And when you go to 80-20, it increases the funding that we would need in order to make sure that it's covered. And that funding could be upwards of $6 million. So it's a big chunk. And I think it would go a long ways in helping us recruit individuals to our field. It would also provide them some money in their pockets to pay for expenses, to pay for living, pay for gas, groceries, you name it, with the cost of everything going up. So I really support this. I want to thank NEA Santa Fe President Grace Mayer, NEA New Mexico is pushing this out throughout the state of New Mexico, and really want to, our delegation, and maybe this is something we talk about later, supporting this as well.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, Superintendent Chavez, and members of the board, are other school districts doing this and coming forward?
Is your mic on? Is your mic on?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
okay.
I'm not
Just couldn't
I'm
hear
not
you.
talking to it. I asked if other districts, school districts, were taking this forward to the legislature.
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Gonzalez. They are. As we mentioned in the cover page, Alamogordo and Las Cruces have already passed it through their boards, and I know this is being pushed throughout the state of New Mexico to really get some backing.
Good.
Board President Noble.
Go ahead, Secretary Anderson.
I pulled this up because somebody had shared it with me recently, but you're probably familiar with this, Dr. Gonzalez, but NMSU's Southwest Outreach Academic Research Evaluation and Policy Center puts out a report every year about various sort of states of things in education in the state, and one of the things that was in the 2022 report was that teacher vacancies are down across the state 34% compared to 2021 levels, while higher education students pursuing teaching certification grew in number. And I just want to point that out because that is the year that we had pay increases through the legislature. So I want to just note that increasing take-home pay for educators does work, and we saw that this last year. So I very much support this resolution and know that the more we can do to ensure that our teachers are treated like the professionals that they are, the better chance we have of retaining and recruiting quality teachers.
There was also the where teachers could retire and just stay out 3 months instead of a year, and that can go up to 3 years. So they can get their retirement and this increased pay. So that's got to bring a lot of teachers back.
And Superintendent, I just want to be clear on the cost implications to this district.
Mm-hmm.
If this is a call to the legislature to do this, if the change is made as we hope it will be, the cost to the district would actually go down.
Correct. And the state would be providing the funding to cover the cost.
Yeah. And just to say, I know this has been said in this context, but as long as I have been on the board, which is pretty close to 6 years now, this board has elected to cover any insurance premium increase for our employees. And again, we've said it's about 1.5% pay raise, but just to note that that is not even that usual, I think, throughout the state, so that this board has, for a long time now, the Santa Fe Public School Board, with the bunch of different members and makeup has continued to prioritize covering that premium, which is something that I'm very proud of. I've been very proud to vote for every single time. And we've been doing the right thing, and we hope that our state policymakers will back us up and do the right thing and help school districts with the recruitment, retention, and generally treating our education employees well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move approval of this resolution.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Dr. Gonzalez with the second. Any further discussions? Any other questions? All those in favor of approving Resolution 2022-2023-7, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, thank you. We have approved action item D.
Great, thank you.
Moving swiftly along, we're at item 11, board discussion and possible action. We start with our 2023 legislative priorities. And Superintendent, I'm hoping that you will let us know if we have anything from Linda Siegel and also any updates on timing for us to discuss, adopt legislative priorities, and talk with our delegation.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. Mr. Josh Granata and I have been in contact with Linda Siegel, who's our legislative liaison, and we discussed that having a breakfast or a legislative breakfast now in November may not be the best timing. There's a lot of initiatives and platforms coming out, and so we've discussed that January may be a better time frame for that breakfast, and it leads right into the session. Some of the things that we need to be watching is the LESC next week while we're there on the Monday that afternoon at 1 o'clock. They're going to come out with their platform as well. So those are great meetings to watch and be aware of, because I think New Mexico came out with their platform, the LESC is coming out with theirs, the Superintendents Association and the New Mexico School Boards Association came out with theirs. A lot of things align. I think something to keep an eye on is there's a big push to increase the instructional hours. It's no longer potentially going to be district-based decision, and we're hearing that it could be anywhere from 1,100 hours to 1,150 hours. Right now, elementary students receive 990 instructional hours. High school students receive, or secondary students receive 1080 or 1,080 instructional hours. And if you just multiply that out or divide it out by 6 instructional hours per day, it's adding 10 days technically to secondary education and 25 to elementary education. So those are important items to watch as we move through this 60-day session. So that's also good for our student board members to hear as well. It's a 60-day session, so it takes a little longer for things to really pan out. Some of the things you guys should consider, and we have plenty of time now, and we've said this in the 2021 legislative priorities, and I'll send that out to all the board members just so you're aware of what we asked for last year. Unfunded mandates. A lot of times the legislators come out with mandates and they're and they're unfunded, and so when they're unfunded mandates, our budget takes a hit. And so when we talk about balancing the budget, we're talking about pay increases. We also have to consider unfunded mandates. So that's something to take a look at. Again, we've always asked for no cuts to education. We want to make sure that we're loud and clear about that. We just passed a resolution to really help our employees with the healthcare costs. That's something to take a look at. Last year, just some brief topics that we discussed with them: no cuts to education, hold education harmless, pre-pandemic funding, restore credit from the CARES Act funding for Santa Fe Public Schools, which was $1.2 million. Legislative allocation to account for loss during COVID or remote learning to student nutrition. Of course, they listened to us, increase competitive pay. Continue addressing the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit, including funding the Hispanic and Indian Ed Acts. And again, we'll be presenting to the LESC how we're addressing the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit through standards-based instruction, and continue to invest in teacher recruitment and retention. Something that you may want to consider is making hard-to-fill positions a priority, maybe providing incentive pay, which can include special education, assistants, teachers, speech and language pathologists. We have an area that is very hard to fill. Through negotiations with NEA Santa Fe and President Grace Mayer, we have MOUs to provide stipends for these hard-to-fill positions. But I think that pay for those areas need to increase in order to get those positions filled. They're not going into special ed in the colleges of education, and so it's a desperate needed area that I think we need to address. So I'll share this platform that we presented last year, but we do have some time to really think it through, and then when we have the date scheduled in early January to really put it together to present to our delegation.
And as you'll see when we look at last year's document, usually we put something in front of our delegation at breakfast so we can say these are our priorities and they can take it away, and that includes capital projects and non-capital projects requests. Any action on community schools for this session?
And I did want to, make this announcement, skip through mine, but we do want to recognize that the city of Santa Fe passed a resolution to support community schools, so we want to thank them for that. But we do want to make sure that they're aware of what we're doing within the district. Also, it's relatively soon that we're sending out or applying for district-wide community school grant. It's a new federal program, so it's not site-specific, and it could be hubs in different areas of town. So hopefully we're approved for our federal application for community schools to expand it.
Any questions or thoughts from the board on that rather good list the superintendent just ran through?
Madam President.
Go ahead, Vice President.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, superintendent. I had taken some notes before the meeting, and it was my intention to write a list of priorities, and all I could come to was fund it. And I love how many times that was said in the 80-20 resolution. You have to fully fund it. Don't just tell us what to do and not give us the money in order to be able to do it well. It happens over and over again. And so that's clearly my number one priority so far. Thank you.
And thank you for that. Crystal Ibarra and I will be talking to the LESC on Tuesday and really talking about engagement of students, trying to prevent them from dropping out. But our attendance coaches are currently being funded through ESSER. So if we want students to attend, if we want that engagement, if we're providing district staff to support those initiatives, we need the funding for it. ESSER's going to run out in a year and a half, and what are we going to do with all the positions that are necessary to operate and that we're funding through ESSER? So I think it's important for them to understand that cliff is coming, and we'll put a number to it so we can present that as well.
Thank you. Other questions, thoughts on this? Secretary Anderson.
Thank you, Board President Noble, Superintendent, and members of the board. I echo Vice President Bose that funding is a big thing, and I'm hopeful that given the budget surplus and given the passage of Constitutional Amendment 1, that we will be in a good position to fund education and not create unfunded mandates. But who knows? But a few things that popped up for me that may or may not be important to the board, but were just things that popped into my head. The affordable housing piece, I think, isn't part of the district necessarily. I think we've talked about it being part of the district, but I think that sort of tangential piece plays a huge role in our ability to recruit and retain educators. And so I would love to see, I know that they're working on it, but I would love to see that be a priority of ours. Flexibility with remote learning and flexibility with increase of instructional hours, particularly the remote learning piece, because we have learned so much, and I think our district has shown that we've really done a lot with remote learning. Not going back to full remote learning, which I know gives everyone a little PTSD, but just this idea that we can do more with it, and that our hands are sort of tied by the PED right now. And then increasing support personnel compensation in particular, and that sort of falls into the incentive pay for hard to fill positions. But, you know, we're doing as much as we can given the budget that we have, but we're still not paying support professionals a wage that they can buy a house through HomeWise, or, you know, like, it just, the math isn't mathing, if you know what I'm saying. So I do think that it might be important to push to increase particularly support personnel compensation.
Yeah, I agree. And when you talk about the cost of living here in Santa Fe, and we're paying our EAs and special ed EAs what we're currently paying them, you know, it's difficult for them to live on that. We are exploring affordable housing, so, you know, hopefully we have an update at some point in the near future on that. But we do know that our workforce is aging out, and congratulations if they can retire. You know, if they have that opportunity and they want to, you know, you can do nothing but say, you know, thank you for your service and congratulations. But we are exploring, because we have to start to look at ways to recruit younger professionals that want to work in education. And I think this is another way, as well as childcare, to really show that even though cost of living is high, we're doing everything we can to fill every single one of our vacancies, and that's our goal. We keep talking about having a 4% vacancy rate, or less than 4% for teachers. That's still not good enough. We want to be at 0. So we're always striving to do better, and this is another way for us to help recruit to our district.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Gallegos.
As he was saying, like, how it will help recruit more people, it's really tough when you go to school and you just have a lot of subs, because you're not really learning anything, because the subs really don't know what they're supposed to be teaching you. Like, and when you have other teachers subbing in for, like, other subjects that they don't know, it's really hard to learn the subject. Like, if you have, let's say, Spanish, but you don't have a teacher that speaks Spanish, it's very tough. Like, I know that happened to us at Capitol. We had a teacher that did not speak Spanish. She was teaching Spanish, and it was not very well. And she would have to ask other students that spoke Spanish for help. And it was really, instead of helping them learn Spanish, it was just confusing them.
Thank you. Do we consider middle school math a hard-to-fill position?
Math and science are always hard to fill.
Yeah.
At every level.
Okay. Anything else on legislative priorities? So I think we will keep this on the agenda for any updates until we go ahead and have the legislative breakfast. So if anybody has, you know, light bulbs in the middle of the night of things that need to be a legislative priority, we'll keep this option open. Though, as we get to advanced planning, it looks like we have only one board meeting this year. So, Dr. Gonzalez.
Well, I think that we need to get funding for all of the things that we're using ESSER for staff people, like the workforce coordinator, the early childhood stuff, all of that we should request funding for those, permanent funding. Thank you.
And so maybe if this is amenable to other board members, but, you know, we could see a list and a sort of new draft document. I think what we've done in the past is had, you know, 2 board members work with the superintendent on polishing that up and making sure it's in the right order and, you know, feels good to the board before that breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been working on that document that you're mentioning, showing what positions are funded through ESSER, what programs. So we have a living working document, and we'll be speaking about that a little bit next week. But the number that we use to employ individuals to help us support students is a high number.
Board President Noble.
Go ahead, Secretary.
I'm happy to help, be a board member to help work on that if we're in need of that.
I am too.
All right. Well, you have two. Thank you both. All right. Should we move on to our board discussion and possible action item B? Board request regarding facility recommendations. This is a somewhat amended item from our last board meeting, and I want to give huge thanks to Vice President Bozé for her help and leadership on this item. And I will go ahead and turn it over to you to talk us through this.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. Tonight we have a kind of revised recommendation that I think really balances well the understanding and agreement to move forward with finding a permanent home for Mandela, as well as fiscal responsibility for the GO bond funds that we've kind of agreed to. So in summary, the Board of Education requests that the superintendent work with staff to provide a breakdown for the Mandela International Magnet School build cost, including the initial estimate of $26 million and the current project quote, and how the build has increased in cost and length of time to what we've heard recently, around $50 million. The request to the superintendent is for the current location to be the priority site for this work. The board further asks the CRC to continue working on projects that have started or are scheduled to start. The maintenance and care of sites and facilities should remain on schedule and moving forward. Finally, the board asks for a joint study session in the first half of 2023 with the CRC to discuss the request of the superintendent. I'll stand for questions if anyone has any. Thank you.
Questions, comments, thoughts from the board on this?
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, I will second. Thank you, Board Member Abeyta. I also want to say that my hope is, and it doesn't require any amendment here, but my hope is really to get some overall context of the CRC's work through this, because this is a big chunk of bond funding, and so sort of to understand where we are and where we need to go on the work with the CRC, I think would be very helpful. I also just wanted to say, in some of the conversations that I've had, and to correct some further misunderstandings out there, there was never any discussion about disbanding the Community Review Committee. This was a choice of words used by our local paper, and it was not accurate in terms of words used by this board in the district or anywhere. So just to be clear, and I know that there's been some conversations about, oh my goodness, disband. Well, we never talked about that. And yeah, there we are. Any further discussion, questions, comments on this? Yes, go ahead.
Let's see. So is this addressing the issue that that was raised by a student from Mandela, like during the, let's see, public forum section?
Sort of. I believe that public comment that was submitted by email, that's what you're talking about, that Mr.
Yes.
Donarski read earlier, yeah, was in reference to this item. We had, I would say, some misunderstandings and miscommunications and a decent amount of conversation about it at our last board meeting. That student seemed to be focused on some immediate repairs and needs, which I think most of us would say, I would certainly say, have never been the issue. There are immediate repairs. We're not, leaving broken windows and that sort of thing in the school. So it's related, but that those issues, as the superintendent touched upon in his announcements, that the student raised in terms of the immediate repairs and needs are being addressed.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving this board request regarding facility recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you very much to Vice President Bozé for good thinking, work, and leadership on this issue. Moving on to action item C, reimagining Santa Fe Public Schools. I don't have any updates at this time. We went so deep last week. We have another steering committee meeting on the third Thursday of November, which is next week. So we'll go in. Superintendent, do you want to add?
Yeah, I continue to, make this announcement. You can find the documents, presentations, agendas on our website, sfps.info. We have a reimagining button, so if anybody's interested in this work, you'll find the information on that website.
Go ahead, Ms. Gallegos.
I was wondering if I were to make let's say a Google form and send it out to the principal, if it would be okay if I made one with questions from the reimagining, specifically on what they would like to see, so that we have some student input. Would that be okay?
I mean, the answer is always going to be yes. Anything you want to do to increase student engagement. And I would just ask that you work with the superintendent on all of the pieces so that we are, being aligned with messages to the principal and that sort of thing. So yeah.
And I would like to interview my students. I would like to interview the students I represent as well, for that kind of thing as well. So send the Google form to me too.
That's great. And I think we would welcome any and all engagement you want to do. We would probably, and the reason, just a little bit of upfront work with the superintendent and maybe with Dr. Garcia, who's our strategist on this, our former superintendent, so that whatever information you get, we can make sure that we have it in a way that the data can be used and aligned with the other things, because there's, I think, quite a bit of work going into thinking about how interviews and surveys are going to be collated so that we have usable data. But thank you for your interest, really appreciate it, and please keep thinking about how to get student voice into this. That's really a great job for you all. So thank you. Okay, moving on to advanced planning. Any changes needed, Superintendent? Oh, there's school, right? Okay. I get caught off guard when there aren't schools, so, election day, that sort of thing. So yes, as the superintendent says, it is Veterans Day tomorrow, where we honor those who have served. And we do have school, and I would say that when we had a veteran, Maureen Cashman, on this board, it was always nice to hear her reflections as to why she liked the idea of having students in school on Veterans Day in order to be able to learn about that holiday and what it means to be a veteran and serve this country in our military. Okay. Anything else? For the good of the order? All right. Well, thank you very much. We are adjourned. We will be back with a regular meeting on December 8th.